All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who Struggles on my path of liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. O Mother, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Lord Vajradharati Lipa Naropa Marpa Milarepa Gampopa Pamudrupa Jikten Sumgon, venerable root guru, possessing the three kindnesses, root and lineage gurus. Idams Dharma Palas, pray, please bestow blessings on my mind stream. An equal refuge ornament of the world, whose renown pervades the 3,000 worlds, the undisputed conqueror Vajradhara, I pay homage to you, the Father. Jikten Sumgon, you alone are continually on my mind, compassionate one. Please grant your blessings, dispel the darkness of my mind. Please bless me to realize the mind free from elaborations. Hung on the northwest border of the land of Odiyana, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as lotus born, surrounded by many hosts of Dakinis following in your footsteps. I pray to you. Come, inspire me with your blessings, Guru Pema Siddhi Hung. In the Dharma Dhatu palace of Akarnishta is the essence of the Buddhas of the three times, who directly reveals my mind as Dharmakaya, O root Guru. At your feet I supplicate. I am Vajra Yogini, instantaneously above my head is protector of the three worlds, Ratna Shri, abiding naturally as a Nirmana Kaya, from the Bum seed syllable in my heart, emanate Ram Yam Kam, that purify all the impurities and stains of the all Fring substances, then the syllables Om Ahong emanate, which transform the immaculate essence of the offering substances into the nature of the elixir of primordial wisdom, turning then into substances that are agreeable to each of the types, entirely filling the limitless 3,000-fold universe. Om Ahong, Om Ahong, Om Ahong. Nama sarvata gate bhayu bisha muke bya sarvata kang ongade saparana hemanga gana kang soham. Nama sarvata gate bhayu bisha muke bya sarvata kang ongade saparana hemanga gana kang soham. Nama sarvata gate bhayu bisha muke bya sarvata kang ungate saparana hemanga gana kang soham. Free from the innate nature that is spontaneously present since the beginning, I invite and request the protectress of the teachings to this birthless in the secret mandala, Yudakinis who magically appear from the activity of primordial wisdom, supreme guardians who abide by the command and oath, manifest magical forms from the Dharma Dhatu, worldly and primordial wisdom, emanations and retinue, with your hearts of Maya's rouse, please come here. From the expanse of the exultant azure space, ablaze with turquoise light, specifically from the azure crag, Airs of space ablaze with turquoise light, specifically from the azure crack of Mule at Turdum, great elder sister Achi Nanangza, please come here. Obstructors, magical apparitions of elusive forms emerging from the sphere of primordial wisdom, other deities, exalted activities, wisdom, samaya, and magnetizing. Guardians of the conqueror's teachings, each according to their own type, retinues of pacification, enrichment, magnetization, and destruction, cries of longing, yogins calling out like a dragon's roar, with welcoming substances, silk ribbons and hands beckoning, I bring forth offering clouds of cleansing smoke, an ocean of elixir due to your samayas. Come here to this place of unsullied samaya samaja jahum bam ho ala la ho hi Bhagavan akarasaya samaya ja. Goddess, Lady of Space, along with your entire retinue, please be seated happily, each according to your like. I bring forth oceans of offering clouds, both physical and visualized. With devotion I praise and pay homage with body, speech, and mind. Here now at this place and in this supreme year, at this excellent juncture when the planets and stars are in favorable positions, with the aspiration prayers of all majestic for destroying Buddhas, for the exhaustion of degenerative factors, may I achieve in its entirety the true meaning of this life. As I make this cleansing offering to you, deities, now let ghosts, demons, mishaps, and obstructors disperse to their own abodes, cleanse and purify obscurations and impurities. Cure with various supreme medicines that clear the afflictive emotions, fine silks, jewels, incense, and aloes wood, sandalwood, cedar wood, fragrant fir, juniper, dwarf, rhododendron, birch, and so on. All these types of fragrant and ambrosia woods, flour, butter, milk, and various types of food and drink. We make these clouds of pervading smoke of this cleansing offering for you, glorious root and lineage gurus, For you, Idam Vajra Yogini, along with retinue, we thank for you, protectress of the teachings, chief lady of space, Choki Droma. For you, exalted activities, Dakini, wisdom Dakini, Samaya Dakini, and magnetizing Dakini. And for you, the three goddesses who devour, slay, and snatch away, we cleanse, taking mother and raise her to the force. Wrathful red mother of exalted activities, along with retinue, along with all your assemblies of thousands of dark red flesh eaters, for all you matrikas and dakinis without exception, we cleanse for you the powerful Lady Dashi, sitting of the supreme crystal tresses of the Himalaya, for you the goddesses of the four families, the five sisters, consort and retinue, and you 12 Dharmas, along with your retinue, we cleanse, so that the Goe gods and the multitude of family guardians, the guardians of the precious teachings of the Kagyu, and oceans of swan guardians, protectors, the Samaya keeping yogins, we offer this as this touches the deities and us, the evil of defilements from Samaya breaches, defilements from violations of vows, quarrels, filth, and demons, those coming from contact with corpses, rape, incest, infidelity, and fouling of hearts. All these foul defects are cleansed and with us become pure. In this way, with this profound ritual of bathing and cleansing smoke, the guardian deities are pleased, violations and breaches are mended. All obstructive and discordant conditions are quelled, and all our wishes that accord with the Dharma are abundantly accomplished. Here now, with lofty praises to the guardian deities, glory to Choki Droma, with these outer, inner, and secret support substances. Glory to Choki Droma, with these various desirable offering clouds. Glory to Choki Droma, with music of devotional songs of praise. Glory to Choki Droma, with mantras, mudras, and samadhi. Glory to Choki Droma, superior to the pinnacle of cyclic existence. Glory to Choki Droma, brighter than the sun and moon. Glory to Choki Droma, good as wish fulfilling jewels. Glory to Choki Droma, full like a sarmalay. Glory to Choki Droma, the never waning teachings of Buddhas. Glory to Choki Droma, to guard and fulfill the ultimate accomplishment of disciples. Glory to Choki Droma. May the guardians and humans not be separated. All the excellent glories, wealth, power, and blessings of the animate and inanimate, of the environment and inhabitants in samsara and nirvana, I now bring together these enriching presences brought for the servants by the great might of all you guardians. Guard the jewel of the essence teachings, increase, develop, and stabilize the holders of the teachings for us who are unerring and our retinue. Increase auspiciousness and resources in your abodes, and when we are away, repel all bandits and hostile forces. Dispel harmful gossips and laws now and in the time to come. Spontaneously bring about all these benefits. Om Bhadra Sanje Guru Rinpoche, Ngada Gunda Deva Jimpesha, Pache Gunsa Dudu Taposa, So what the so gentle of the so. Jina Sambai Pache Shivadang, Sambalungi to Pachin Jilam, Tusun Sanje Guru Rinpoche. Madagunda, the watching pressure, Pacheco said the droppers, so what there's a danger of the sorting on some Pacheco, one on some so what there's a ginger love to so on some way, Pacheco, some Pacheco, Pacheco, the sense and Jingo, and Pacheco, what the conduct, the watching pressure, Pacheco said the droppers. So what depth so ginger love to so chin on some way, Pache, what on some ballon get to ginger love, the sense and jingo to the butching, what the conduct the watching pension, Pache concerted the doubles. So what depth so ginger love to so chin on some way, Pache, what on some ballon get to ginger. Guru Rinpoche, Buddha of the 3 times great bliss, source of all siddhis, wrathful subduer of maras, who removes all obstacles. Grant your blessings, we pray, through them may all obstacles, outer, inner, and secret, be quelled, and may all our aspirations be fulfilled. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage Buddhas, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, who harm those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues, have happiness and be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. So happy Monday. Try your best to be happy Monday. So we are in 57, page 57. So here, an analogy is given to further kind of explain what came before. To make an analogy for the case mentioned above, it is like having poured various grains in a single cooking pot. When it is cooked, it is not the case that only the wheat gets cooked and the peas don't. all of the grains get cooked together, but they stay individually separate. In the same manner, all habitual tendencies have the same essence, in that they are being cooked. They have the same essence. So the essence is, as we've learned, is what he calls dependent origination, free from the extremes of the eight extremes of elaborations. But they stay individually distinct. So then, for each of these, their dependent origination of cause and effect is distinct. Since their nature is one and the same, one single remedy will also suffice for everything that needs to be abandoned. So the single realization, which is the realization of the emptiness nature of all these different kleshas, different habitual tendencies, is sufficient for abandoning, for becoming free from these kleshas. This is the crucial point, that the union of the three times in the mandala of the mind, the body, and the appearing entities are one in a single moment of dependent origination. And so this, even though, as we looked last week, this discussion about meditation, post-meditation, right? A little bit unclear for us, at least for me. What is the flow of the thought of the argument, so to say? But in this section, I think what we need to know is found in this section here, which is that using the analogy of cooking various grains and beans in the same pot, makes me wonder if Kyoba Rinpoche had a instant pot, a pressure cooker that you can put the different grains. Otherwise, it's very hard to cook all the different grains in the same pot. Anyway, apparently they this is used as an example, cooking different grains in the same pot. Although they are cooked together, they don't become one another. Barley remains barley, peas remain peas, rice remains rice, millet remains millet. So, in that way, they are individually distinct. But putting them into the instant pot and cooking them in the same way would cook all of them. And so likewise, in terms of dependent origination of cause and result, peas have their cooked peas have their own causes and results. Cooked quinoa have their own causes and results. Cooked millet have their own causes and result. But in terms of their nature, the nature in this case you could say that they are cookable and edible, and they all have the same nature, which is the dependent origination, free from the extremes, the 8 extremes of elaborations. So then this, the summary for this section, this is the crucial point, this is the vital point, this is the key thing to understand, that the union of the 3 times in the mandala of the mind, the body and the appearing entities are one in a single moment of dependent origination. 58. Is it that Buddha nature is present at the stage of the four types of nobles or of a Tathagata? The four types of nobles are the noble hearers, the noble solitary realizers, the noble bodhisattvas, and the noble Buddhas. Nobles as in the Aryas. These are those beings who have left samsaric confusion. So if you want to be technical here, these bodhisattvas from the 8th boom up, then they become noble. They become Aryas. So rhetorically, he's asking, is it the case that Buddha nature is only present when you arrive at the four stages of the nobles, but is lacking at the stage of an ordinary being? No, of course it's not. So quoting the Uttara Tantra, due to the privation of Buddha's Dharmakaya, due to the indivisibility of suchness, and due to their potential, beings are always endowed with Buddha nature. And so Buddha nature is present, and present equally for all beings, no matter relatively how confused or how enlightened they are. And in terms of Buddha nature is evenly, equally present. Thus, an ordinary being at the causal stage has Buddha nature. Even in the case of hell beings, their very state of suffering is indistinguishable from Buddha nature. Buddha nature is neither corrupted through suffering nor improved by becoming a Buddha. It is like the element of space, which is not burned or destroyed, even when the whole universe disintegrates. Disintegrates in the context of the end of the physical universe, end of one cycle, then it is being consumed by fire. And so it says, even as the universe is being consumed by fire, space is not affected. Also, for someone at the stage of an ordinary being, dependent origination is present by fundamental nature as space-like or illusion-like cause and result. This is called union. This is what we mean by not two. This is what we mean by union. In Vajrayana, in Mahamudra, you come across a lot of this word union. And then particularly in the case of the representation of deities, in the highest Yoga Tantra context, often the deities are depicted as male and female, and then the description will say in union. So Gilbert Rinpoche says, what should we understand when we hear union? What we should understand here is, for someone at the stage of an ordinary being, meaning even for an ordinary being, it's not the case that only for the nobles, only for the Buddhas, only for the advanced, highly evolved beings that this is the case. But even for someone at the stage of an ordinary being, dependent origination is present by fundamental nature as space-like or illusion-like cause and result. This is called union. Yeah. This point has been made, throughout this chapter. Right? Here, perhaps casting it or discussing it in the context of more specific Vajrayana and Mahamudra language, union. What should we understand? So next time we practice sadhanas and it says, and the Lord and the lady, so to say, the father and the mother, the male and the female deities are in union. What are we talking about? We're talking about this. So when suffering has turned up, or when happiness has turned up, that turns up too, Of course, not turning up without rhyme or reason, and the ripening of causes and conditions. But when either happiness or suffering or anything in between, everything in between, when they turn up, That's dependent origination. But that dependent origination, you could say, is dependent also on the dependent origination that is space-like, that is without any of the extremes, meaning emptiness. So this is the union, and this is the form is emptiness and emptiness form of the Heart Sutra. This is Nagarjuna's, emptiness itself is dependent origination. However, union should not be understood as two things mixed into one, but as the natural state by fundamental nature. What he means here is that union should not be understood as what was previously distinct is now somehow made into one. But in fact, by its very nature, it's already like that. So it's not the case that now cause and effect is over here, emptiness is over here, and through our practice, we bring these two together. So in that way, it's a little bit of a kind of the limits of like painting the deities, male and female, and joined together. Because there it might give the connotation, right? Give the wrong understanding that, these are two distinct things that now join together. But it's not like that. So he's saying, but as the natural state, by fundamental nature. This is its fundamental nature. This is also the union of dependent origination, free from the 8 extremes, with dependent origination of cause and result. So, more fully, he repeats this point. With this in mind, Pamodrupa taught, this clear mandala of the various appearances is of one taste. Amid the open space that is freedom from elaboration. So, using Vajrayana expression, this clear mandala of the various appearances, all these manifold appearances, they have the one taste. And they exist, they appear in the open space that is freedom from elaboration. All Tathagatas of the 3 times have no other Dharma to teach besides this dependent origination. Thus, with the intention to teach dependent origination free from the 8 extremes, Nagarjuna taught dependent origination is not ceasing, not arising, and so on and so forth. That famous verse in 4 lines, in case you forget what that is, you go back to page 49. Dependent origination is not ceasing, not arising, not extinct, not permanent, not one, not many, not coming, not going. Complete pacification of elaboration, peace. I bow to him who taught that, the perfect Buddha, the best of teachers. This is the opening homage statement in Nagarjuna's most famous text called Verses to the Middle. Mula, the root verses to the middle. Mula Madhyamaka Karika. You can look at various translations of this to get a better understanding of what these 8 freedoms, 8 extremes, and therefore free from these 8 extremes, what it means. You should consult different translations to get the full meaning of. The choices here are, pretty good, but not extinct, not permanent. Anyway. So 59. So this is why Nagarjuna, what Nagarjuna is doing in that verse. And then furthermore, he taught it in another text also well known, Another text that Nagarjuna taught is called Letter to a Friend. Of the two, the root verses to the middle is very terse, not easy, and stated in very kind of, you and I would call, in a very philosophical language is used. Hard to read without a commentary. On the other hand, the letter to a friend is written by Nagarjuna for his friend, a local king. So that's written in verses, and that contains a lot of, like you could say, common wisdom, all the way from common wisdom for living a good life, so as we would say, all the way to achieving Buddhahood. So a letter to the friend might be a good one to read, if you're looking for something to read to enhance your understanding. So here, in Letter to a Friend, Nagarjuna said, "Within the treasury of the victor's words, there is nothing so prized and profound as this, and those who see it correctly see the Buddha, the perfect one who knows the truth." So this is referring to dependent origination. And in the commentary to the Rice Seedling Sutra, so this seems to be Nagarjuna's commentary on the Rice Seedling Sutra. Whoever sees dependent origination sees the Buddha, sees the Dharma, sees the Sangha. And in the fundamental verses, in the root verses on the middle way, there is not a single phenomenon that did not originate dependently. It goes on to say, and therefore there is not a single phenomenon that is not empty. Thus, this is the concealed treasure of all the Tathagatas of the three times. This extraordinary teaching of dependent origination is the treasure of our father, Jikten Sumgon, and the reason he appeared in this world. Someone who doesn't understand it is like a child who doesn't see the father's treasure, and so is no better off than a beggar. So we should see, like this is the real treasure of the father, of the lineage, Kyopa Jikten Sumgon. In one famous prayer composed by Mipam, this great Nyingma master of the 20th century, he wrote a praise to Jikten Sumgon where he calls Jikten Sumgon the master of dependent origination, which is also a title. More famously, that title is Nagarjuna's title. So Mipam uses that for a short praise that we still use, a dedication prayer that we use. And there it's called the master of dependent origination. Never be satisfied in terms of Dharma. There are generally many stages to be understood in the Dharma, just as the rising sun passes through many stages until it shines fully, until, it's right above our heads. All these stages of the Dharma can be understood through these teachings to the assembly, through this collection, this type of teaching. So it's called teachings to the assembly because whatever Kyopa Rinpoche says here is kind of general enough and thorough enough that it is meant for a great gathering of people, of disciples. Of course, we're not saying a great gathering as in, people who don't know anything about Dharma, uneducated about the vocabulary, can just turn up and understand. Here is talking about, people with Dharma foundation, people with Dharma background. These are not specific to this individual and that individual and not relevant to this individual or that individual. This covers the common ground. And so can be understood through these teachings to the assembly. All three forefathers, meaning Gampopa, Pamadrupa, and Jikten Sumgon, valued teachings to the assembly greatly. Some say, knowing how to supplicate the Lama and knowing Dharma practice, that is enough. Yeah, so this probably, is some... This is probably, right, something that people in the early Kagyu community, some people might say, that's all, because, right, especially this early Kagyu communities generally do not encourage, do not emphasize a lot of philosophical studies, does not encourage or emphasize like debate or even very complex tantric mastery of tantric techniques or tantric magic or things like that, because under the umbrella of Buddha Dharma there's a lot of material, right? In part because of how Indian Buddhism developed and developed into this great represented the kind of the complexity and the sophistication and the breadth that Buddha Dharma covered is well represented by, say, the Nalanda tradition, and not only Nalanda, then the great University of Vikramashila, which seems to have a more tantric interest. Nalanda was more sutric, you could say. Then there is Somapuri. So many of these institutions, all these different strains of Buddhist transmission, they all arrive in Tibet. So it covers a lot of, but in the early Kagyupas especially, the style of practice is directly look at your mind, and here are some number of practices taken from here, there, and put together, and you just practice this, and this will support your practice of looking at your mind. So it's a very modest, you could say, range of practices and emphasis. And as a result of that, some people will say, knowing how to supplicate the Lama, meaning just devotion to the Guru, and knowing how to practice, that is enough. So here, Kabar Rinpoche, actually, he says, those people are too big-headed. Except for bodhisattvas on the 10th stage, no one has sufficient knowledge. In general, it is the Buddha's teaching to be easily satisfied in terms of sense pleasures, but to be easily satisfied in terms of the Dharma is Mara's teachings. You say, be satisfied, with easily satisfied with, sense pleasures, but not with regards to the Dharma. Even the exalted protected Maitreya said that he did not know the entirety of the Buddha's teachings. On that point, and the Uttaratantra says, just as the vision of beings with eyes is dependent upon the light of lamp, lightning, jewel, sun, or moon, this explanation is made by depending on the sage, the great sage, the Muni, Shakyamuni, who illuminates with the light of the Dharmakaya. If even Maitreya says so, what can be said of others? Rather, armor yourselves with the firm resolution, I need to know the entirety of the true Lama's teachings. With that, these Dharma teachings will naturally become your main occupation. All of these points can be understood through the teachings to the assembly, so you should exert yourselves in it. And so this is to correct the over laziness of, I don't need to study these things. Just practice, just practice. Sometimes you hear people saying that. Sometimes you hear lamas saying that. And sometimes the lamas have a good reason. They're telling a specific person whom they know very well, has endless questions and just getting distracted by questions. Recently I shared a very insightful, very helpful kind of approach to questions and doubts. Right? This is advice that Ajahn Chah gave to Ajahn Jaya, that Ajahn, then one of his students, Ajahn Jaya Saro, shared with others with regards to doubts. So please go look at that. That's very helpful. But we need to try to understand, to need to see that there's so much more to learn, and then be open to learning and understanding more, but not like running around collecting information. So there's also not the way. I need to know this, I need to know this, I need to know this, I need to know this. So it's also not saying that. Sometimes we know so much, but how does this work? No idea. How does it enter the heart? No idea. Sometimes we know so much, then a lot of pride, With that, these Dharma teachings will naturally become your main occupation. You should occupy your mind more and more with these teachings here. To repeat, in this and other lives, each body or appearance and so forth, enjoyable or painful, they are the results that accord with preceding causes. Examples of events that occurred in accordance with an inner state of mind or an intense mental state are in the stories of the servant girl from Varanasi, King Ashoka, the Arya Gavampati, and the robber girl from Drikung. And so here, the footnote, very helpful. The servant girl from Varanasi died in an intense mental state of love and affection for her child. I think they were both crossing the river and drowned. So even though, it was a tragic death, right? Drowning mother and daughter, but because the mother was in such an intense mental state of love and affection for her child that she was reborn in the realm of gods. Normally we say, attachment leads to pain. But here, it's not as clear cut, In this case, right? It's intense love for the child, not even for all mother sentient beings, and that intense love can cause rebirth in the God realms. So don't think, totally intense love to one person is automatically problematic. Not automatically. There are very many mitigating circumstances. So in this case, the love of a parent for a child. King Ashoka died in an intense mental state of anger and was reborn as a poisonous snake. On the other hand, King Ashoka, one of the greatest kings in terms of supporting Buddhism. Of course, before that, he did many negative things. It said that he killed all his brothers, like maybe 1,000 or close to that, in order to become king. Then later, he regretted. He became a great patron of Buddhism. But nonetheless, when he died, he was in an intense mental state of anger, and immediately after being Ashoka, he was reborn as a poisonous snake. In the previous life, Arya Gavampati, one of the Arhats, was an ox that two Arhats rescued from drowning in mud. He later died in an intense mental state of joy toward the Arhats, and so became their disciple in its next existence. The story of the robber girl from Tulung has not yet been identified. So some story that was known to Gyopa Rinpoche's students, but we don't have information on that now. These were the results of causes that were intense mental states, whether intense anger, intense joy, intense love of a mother for her child. The discriminating insight that arises from mental cultivation is what allows us to understand all the details of these events through direct perception. And so here is saying that, it is possible to train one's mind. When you are able to refine your mind, you can actually look at a situation and see into the causes and conditions of that situation. And it is that kind of wisdom that is more prized by the early Kagyupas than the wisdom that is more philosophical type. It says, these philosophically based type of wisdom, you cannot really use that to help anyone. But if you're able to see people's causes and conditions, then you know what to say to help them. So the discriminating insight that arises from cultivating the mind, refining the mind, is what allows us to understand all the details of these causes and effects, these events, through direct perception. Not guessing, but you develop the power to directly see how we arrive at this situation, this condition. The root of this discriminating insight, this wisdom, in turn, is not to be separated from devotion to the protector of the world. In this regard, supreme devotion is to perceive the Lama as Dharmakaya. So this is a unique statement found in the early Kagyu community. The Kagyupas emphasize devotion, and then more specifically devotion to the Guru. And then within this emphasis, they say the ultimate devotion to the Guru is not like, giving everything you all own to the Guru, even like giving your life to the Guru, much less, serving the Guru, all of that, supporting the Guru, all of that, yeah. It's not even that. The ultimate devotion is to be able to perceive the Lama as Dharmakaya. To perceive the Lama as Dharmakaya, not so easy. And you cannot pretend. And it's not encouraging you to pretend. Meaning, oh yes, everything the Lama does. Oh yes, Dharmakaya, Dharmakaya, Dharmakaya. I would say you have to be able to see also what you think, or you have to be able, and it's my opinion now, like when you see faults, when you see things that you're not comfortable, don't pretend, oh, Dharmakaya, Dharmakaya, Dharmakaya. I don't think, that's how you solve this problem. But rather, when you see faults, you see problems, and depending on what they are, the first thing is to not look away, not to pretend. It's no, no, no. I didn't see that. That is not, perceiving the Lama as Dharmakaya. Instead, what we see there, then we turn around first and say, that fault that I just saw, that just became obvious. Where is it? And then you begin to see that your perception is involved. This again, it's not an exercise to then excuse what's happening over there. It's not. But there also, right? So this teaching on the dependent origination free from the extremes and dependent on origination of cause and effect. So you have to be able to see both. Yeah. Dependent origination of cause and effect will bring home the lesson of, I should be more careful about my actions, because even the sublime Lama, these causes and effects are still playing out. So I need to be, how much more I need to be careful. Then at the same time to also understand dependent origination free from the extremes. And not fixate, bad, bad. Good, good. That powerful and intense yearning from the bottom of your heart will bring the Lama's teaching to fruition, will bring the Lama's teaching to bear fruit in you. And the understanding of dependent origination of cause and result and so forth, and all accomplishments will also be obtained through it. Therefore, I beg you to make it your primary occupation, your primary task, to gain a general and particular understanding of both the dependent origination that is free from the 8 extremes of elaboration and the dependent origination of cause and result. So these two aspects of reality, the emptiness aspect and the dependent, the appearances aspect. So here, dependent origination free from the 8 extremes of elaboration, and dependent origination that is cause and effect. So when we're able to relate and to understand and to proceed and to process what we perceive through these two, then it becomes really a very helpful for our growth. Because here it doesn't simplify things into, it's either just this or either just that. You become more attuned to what we now experience as paradoxical or maybe even contradictory. But with the devotion of trusting that Buddhas, on the other hand, understand this as two sides of the same coin, inseparable. And that Buddhas are able to do what Buddhas do precisely because these two aspects they can see clearly, distinctly, and yet inseparably. And that is what we also aim for. So 3 teachings we have completed. Tomorrow we will start the fourth teaching, a shorter chapter on calm abiding and insight. Chanju sem chorim boje ma ge ba nam ge gyuje ge ba nyam ba me ba yang go ne gong du be wor shu